Tom, you have such extensive experience in the wine industry, from sales to tasting to winemaking. What is the most challenging aspect of the wine industry?
Well, in my opinion, I think it's growing grapes. It's one thing that we can't control is Mother Nature. So some years we'll get lots of rain, or we'll get drought, or lots of different elements come and affect the way that we grow grapes. So it's something that we can't control. So you try to prepare yourself as best as you can. It's one thing that's, in the winemaking you can control a few things. In sales you can control a few things. It's not always a perfect thing, but one thing I think is just growing grapes first and foremost.
There are so many wineries under the Jackson family wines. Is there a single philosophy in winemaking that ties you all together?
Well, as far as a single philosophy, I think each of the different brands within the portfolio are their own individual brands. They're from their own places, they have their own winemakers, they have their own vineyards that they're sourcing fruit from. What the major importance is that I think the families behind it, the Jackson family, originally founded by Jess Jackson, and he really had a passion for growing grapes in some of the best wine regions, not only in California but around the world as well. And that was really the thing that kind of all links all the brands together, is the family, and it's still a family-owned business. The family is very active in the business as well, and that's really driving and allowing all of our winemakers in the different wineries to give them the top-notch grapes first and foremost, and then also you'll see the winemaking facilities as well.
Has California wine achieved the recognition it deserves?
Well, I think it's starting to. I mean, there's been, the 1976 Judgment of Paris was a big thing where, the top Californian wines were judged against the top French wines, and California came on top in that, and they did it again 25 years later, and it came out on top as well. I think it's starting. I think when you're looking at the major trade publications and looking at main journalists, I think U.S. is just on, international wine stage. It is getting some great recognition, and I think it's still, I think as a whole country, as the USA, but even in California as a single state, everyone's really striving to do better and increasing that over time. So,
does marketing California wine demand more effort than, say, marketing Australian wine?
I think all wine takes a lot of effort to market. I mean, it's a big world of wine these days. It's not, if I was in the soft drink industry, well, there's actually not that many brands that compete against you. Yes, there's some big brands that compete against each other, but in wine, every single day I wake up and you're competing against 3 million. I mean, I don't know what the exact number of wine labels, but I mean, there's wines from everywhere, different varieties, different brands from different places. It's a big wine world, so I think it's very hard from a competition standpoint, just in general in the wine industry. I think California really is fortunate because it has a good brand equity. I think when people think of California, it really resonates, great images.
I agree with that.
I mean, the beaches, and they have, wine country in California. If you go to Sonoma, Napa, if you go to Santa Barbara in the south, or even go up to Mendocino County, they're very beautiful places, and I think people, and that resonates. And it's a great thing too. Obviously, there's a lot of tourism, so I think there is a very positive image. Obviously, people know Hollywood and things like that, but in general, I think California has a very good brand equity. And the great thing is they're backing it up with really world-class wines, which is very positive as a just brand California. And I think it's still, and it depends on your market that you go to. In Singapore, obviously, it has a very long connection with Australia, obviously proximity and distance. There's a lot of tourism between the two countries as well, so maybe in this market, maybe California is a little bit harder to market, but in general and just broadly speaking, I think we're very fortunate to have brand California to help sell wines.
You travel around a lot in your business. Which country's wine culture is exciting for you?
Well, in general, I think Asia is very exciting. If we're looking at it broader, I'm very fortunate to go to quite a few different markets, and the exciting thing about it is the trends is wine consumption is getting more popular, especially with the younger generation, which is exciting for me when I'm doing brand presentations and seminars. is to getting in front of people that are really interested in wanting to learn more about what's going on in the wine glass and how do you make it and those aspects, which I think is very exciting. When you go to some of the more developed wine markets in the world, you know, it's you don't see that level of excitement because it's something that they're used to and they've probably grown up with. And not to say that's wrong by any means, but for me it's nice to see the excitement. And when I'm in Singapore, I think there's a lot of excitement going on here. There's some beautiful wine venues that you get to go to. If you go to Marina Bay Sands or go to some of these other beautiful wine venues that you can go and taste great wines and enjoy it with food as well. So I think wherever you go in general in Asia, it's really exciting.
So next question. China and Asia has seen massive growth in wine demand. How do they perceive California wine?
Well, I think the reputation's growing. Really what we've seen just in Asia, I'll address that, and as a whole market, I think the statistics are showing that it is growing, and that's a good thing. I think as more people travel over time, they're getting experiences when they come to California and looking at what's being produced there and tasting and what the wines look like. They really are into that, which is an exciting thing. And in regards to China, I think the old world's definitely dominated not only China but just Asia in general, which I think people are now to the level of experimentation where they want to go out and find new discovery wines, and they're looking to the new world, they're looking to even some of the old world as well. But I think California is in that great position that we're producing world-class wines that people are excited about.
What is your personal favorite wine and vintage?
It's always a hard question to answer for everyone. I have so many favorite wines, and I'm very situational in the way that I enjoy wines. If I was to have one wine to go to a desert island with, is that the question? I guess it's today I'm really into Chardonnay. I'm really my palate's really wanting to drink more and more Chardonnay. So what island I was?
And what would you eat with it?
One of my favorite things is to have a roast chicken on a Sunday afternoon. So a Sunday roast. If I did a roast chicken and Chardonnay, some potatoes, some roasted vegetables, I think that sounds good to me.
How do you overcome the obstacles in your professional life, and what advice would you give to young professionals?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's just lots of hard work. Everything's tough in life. You have to, work through it because I actually read a really good quote the other day. I had a friend on Facebook that posted it, and life's not easy every single day. You have challenges that you face, and the thing is, it's about how you react to those challenges. You can kind of handle things two different ways. You can address them straight on, or you can let them persist. I think is one of those things is you address those challenges head on and you deal with them, and then you move on and you try to get better and learn from your mistakes. Unfortunately, no one's perfect. You just can't be. So one thing is just trying to learn from those mistakes and getting better every day. I think the most important thing is to have those experiences that actually test you. You only get to learn so much in school, and it's great to have that degree. It's great to have the reading and the test and those. But the real world's a lot harder than those tests because, your boss is always going to be much tougher than your teacher ever was. And I think that's one thing that probably doesn't get conveyed to that younger generation, that it's not as easy as, getting a degree, walking to a job and becoming the boss. It's just not there. There's a lot of people that have worked in that business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years that, they can attest that it's not as easy as being the boss.
Nowadays, the young generation are expecting much more for less. What do you think of this development?
Well, I can tell you very vivid. I had a lot of experience. I remember when I first started in the industry. What I did was we had wines that would ship to stores, and I'd go into those stores and merchandise. Taking wines out of boxes, putting it away, and I crushed boxes for a living, and that's what you did. Then you merchandise. You built wine displays. You did those type of things. That's hard work, and at the same time, being very professional and starting to learn more about wine. I still learn every day. I still try to attend as many wine tastings as possible because it's never ending. You know, as soon as you know this much, you know, you've only, you know, people that think they know a lot about something actually probably know this much about it, because it's one of those things that wine is a very vast and challenging topic, because there's so much of it, so many different regions, so many different places. So, you know, it's an ongoing learning experience for us. So.
Okay, interesting question. How do you relax after a hard day at work?
That's a good question. I work lots and I get to travel. Thing for me is I love to play golf. If I could play more golf, I would play a lot more. You know, work gets in the way of those things sometimes. You know, I like to read. I mean, I try to read the newspaper every single day. I always want to be informed. Another good thing is, you know, to have a glass of wine, I think, is always a great thing to do. I'm also partial for maybe a glass of single malt scotch. I really, you know, I'm drinking lots of Macallan at the moment, and really what a passion of mine really lately, you know, non-wine, is I'm definitely drinking more and more Japanese whiskey and some of the single malt. I always enjoy movies and different things. I get to see most of my movies on an airplane, but I don't mind going to a movie occasionally as well.
So last question, if a young boy tells you he wants to be a winemaker, what advice would you give him?
I think it's to go and taste as many foods, fruits, vegetables, you know, different types of proteins, so meats, cheeses, as many different things as you can possibly try. You know, wine is a gastronomic profession first and foremost. It's about taste, it's about flavor. And I think that's one thing that early on in life is just to try as many possible different flavors, going to your markets, you know, going out and smell things, going out and tasting things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, great. No, thank you. Yeah, that was good.